So you're going to use cosine. Okay. So it is kind of like a formula like law of sines was. Okay, so you're just going to plug in your sides and your angle into this law of cosines formula. So let triangle ABC, triangle here, be any triangle. Okay, so it can be acute, obtuse, stuff like that. It doesn't have to be a right triangle. With A, B, and C representing the sides. So those lowercase letters are the sides of the triangle. Opposite the angles with measures A, B, and C. Capitals represents the angles, lowercase sides. Then the following equations are true. Now these three equations are all the same equation. Okay? You don't have to have three different ones every single time. It's all basically the same equation. So in this first one, I have lowercase a. Okay? That's this side here. That's equal to b squared plus c squared. So the other two sides squared and added together. Minus 2 times bc. So again, those other two sides. Times the cosine of angle A. So the part I want you to notice here is that your side that it's equal to is the opposite angle. Okay? So you're taking cosine of that opposite angle and it's equal to that opposite side squared with all that fluff between. Okay, that's the same for these equations here. So if I took b squared, I would have a squared plus c squared, so your other two sides squared, added together, minus 2 times a times c, okay, times the cosine of the opposite angle. Okay, so whatever side you're squaring and setting everything else equal to, you're going to take cosine of that opposite angle. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah? All right, so to use law of cosines, you'll use that if you know the measures of two sides of a triangle. Okay, so you know two sides. Or if you know two sides and the included angle. Okay, so included angle meaning it has to be the angle between the two sides that you know. So if you know side C and B, your included angle would be A. Okay, it's that angle between the two sides, or the angle that those two sides make up. That's what included means. So with this, you do need to remember to follow the order of operations. Okay, so when you're simplifying this, you need to follow the order of operations. So you're going to multiply or divide before you add and subtract. Okay, so multiply, divide before you add or subtract. Okay, so you'll notice up in your formula here, you have multiplication, you have subtraction and addition as well in there. So when you're simplifying, you need to be careful. Okay, don't combine c squared minus 2. Okay, 2 is multiplied by a, c, and cosine of b. Okay, so all that has to be multiplied together first before you can add or subtract. So going through an example. Okay, we want to find the value of x. So I'm always going to look at the angle that I'm given. Okay? In law of cosines, you're going to have that just like one angle shown to you. Okay, you'll have that one angle. So in this case, that's angle C. That's this one right here. So that was my first step. Second step is to identify the side that's opposite that angle. So across from that angle. That is x. So with my formula, since I'm going to use this angle, I'm going to have to take the cosine of that angle. So the opposite side has to go on the left-hand side of that equal sign. Okay, so I'm using this one right here. My lowercase c is x. So I'm going to say this is x squared. That's equal to, if I look back up at that formula, I'm not going to keep moving my paper up and down, but you can see it on your paper. If I look back up to that formula, I then have a squared. Okay, lowercase a is opposite that uppercase A angle. So that would be 9. That's squared. Plus b squared, that would be 11. Minus, I have this 2. Okay, don't forget that 2. Times lowercase a, well, I said that was 9 for that a squared part. Times lowercase b, I said was 11. And then I still have this cosine of my angle, which is 28. Okay, so I'm just plugging these numbers into a formula. Okay, from here I want to simplify. Okay, so I have x squared is equal to 9 squared is 81. Plus 11 squared is 121. Minus, I can multiply 2 times 9 times 11. Don't multiply by cosine of 28 yet. Just 2 times 9 times 11. That's 198. And I still have this cosine of 28. Okay, I can add together these two. Okay, so I have x squared is equal to 202 minus 198 cosine of 28. Now this is where people get mixed up. You cannot subtract 198 from 202. Do not subtract those two numbers. 198 is multiplied by cosine of 28. So you cannot subtract those two numbers. So to finish solving for this, I need x by itself. Right now it's x squared. What do I do to cancel out that square? You take the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Okay, so I have x is equal to the square root of 202 minus 198 cosine of 28. Okay, and I can plug that into my calculator. So if you have your calculator, let me get my other one. All right, so on this one, I can press second and then my square root button. I'll type in 202 minus 198. I can press cosine right away since it'll multiply it together then. And then 28. I'll end my parenthesis there, and then I'm going to end my parenthesis for the entire square root. Okay, then I can press equal, and you should get x is about 5.2. Okay, does that make sense on this one? Kind of just type it all in. All right, other one. Make sure I get this. Oh, it's dead. Oh, maybe not. Thought it was dead. Okay, so we're doing 28 cosine. No. 202 minus cosine. Okay. All right, so if you have this calculator, it's going to seem like a lot. Okay, so if you do have this one. I suggest that you write that one step that I have right here. Write this down, okay? Write that step down so I know that you did your calculation correctly up until this point, because on this calculator, it's way different to enter. So here, you're going to start at 202. We're going to subtract, okay, so press the minus button, but then you have to go backwards from there. So you're going to type in 28 cosine multiplied by 198, press equals, and then press your square root button. Okay, so if you need to write out the steps on your paper, you can write out the steps. I can show you again. So you're going to still start with 202. You're going to subtract, okay, and then this whole thing, we always have to start with our angle with this calculator. So 28 cosine to get the decimal, multiply by what's in front of it, press equals, and then we can take the square root of that number. Okay? But again, write down this step right there. Questions on example 1? All right, example 2, this time you're finding an angle. However, it's the only angle within that triangle. Okay, so that's the angle we're going to go from. Okay, with that angle, you need to identify the opposite side. Okay, so the side across from it. That side across from it goes on the left-hand side of your equal sign. Okay, so here I'd have 1.9 squared. Okay, that's the side across from that angle. It's on the left-hand side of the equal sign. Do you have a question? Square it right away. You can square it right away. Okay, that's equal to, your other two sides are squared and added together. So it doesn't matter their order. So your other two sides that you're given, I have 1.3, that'll be squared, plus 2.1, that'll be squared. Then I'm subtracting. I need that 2. There's always that 2 in this formula. Then multiplied by your other two sides that you had already identified. Okay, so we have 1.3 and 2.1. Okay, again, that quantity right there still has this cosine multiplied to it, and that's cosine of your angle that you went from to get that opposite side. So in this case, that's our x value. So in law of cosines, your x value should either be here or here. Okay, you should have numbers for all the rest inside here. Okay, your x value should either be here or at the end. All right, so from here we can simplify. So I can take 1.9 and square it. That is 3.61. I can take 1.3 and square it. That is 1.69. I can take 2.1 and square it. So I have 4.41. I can multiply all three of these numbers together. So I'm subtracting 2 times 1.3 times 2.1. That is 5.4. Then I still have this cosine of x. Oh yeah, there's a 6. There's a 6 here. Okay, this should say 5.46 cosine of x. My 6 turned into a C on my other paper. All right, so from here I can add these two numbers together. So I still have 3.61. That's equal to 6.1 minus 5.46 cosine of x. And again, I'm trying to get x by itself.
So then you gotta
Subtract 6.1 from both sides. Okay. Here you'll get negative 2.49 is equal to negative 5.46 cosine of x. Okay, I have negative 5.46 times cosine of x. Since they're multiplied together, you need to divide by 5.46. Negative 5.46. I'm going to leave this as a fraction. Okay? However, if I have a negative divided by a negative, that's positive. So I have 2.49 over 5.46 equal to the cosine of x. How do I get x if it's an angle? What do I do? The inverse. I'm going to take the inverse. Okay? You bring in cosine inverse on both sides. Okay? So that will cancel it out on that right-hand side. So I can type in cosine inverse of 2.49 over 5.46. That will equal x. Okay, so calculator right here. Okay, I can press second cosine, so I get that negative 1 for the inverse. Then I have 2.49 over 5.46 equals. Okay, so our x value here is 62.9 degrees. Okay, on your other calculator here, you're going to type in your fraction first. So 2.49 divided by 5.46. Press equals to get that decimal, and then second and cosine. Just like you were before when we were taking the inverse. Okay, questions on that one? All right, on the back. Okay, again, first step, identify your angle. Again, I'm looking for x. Next, identify its opposite side. So the side across is 8. That side goes on the left-hand side of your equal sign. Okay? So I have 8 squared is equal to your other two sides, squared and added together. So we have 6 and 3. So we'll have 6 squared plus 3 squared minus, we have this 2 times your other two sides. So again, 6 and 3. And then that's multiplied by cosine of your angle. Okay, and again, I can go through and simplify. I want you guys to do that. Okay, I set it up, go through, simplify, solve for x. Yeah. I thought you wrote it down and I was like, I don't know.
What's that? Anything important happen at the practice? This is my last week. I'm just pausing you about that. So you subtract 45 from 64, which that's 96. So look out there. I work with divide by negative 30. Yeah. It should be cosine. Yeah. And you subtract 45.
All right, so most people got to this point. 19 equals negative 36 cosine of x. No, it doesn't. You need to divide by negative 36. So you have negative 19 over 36 equals cosine of x. Now you can bring in cosine inverse on both sides to cancel them out here. So you would type in cosine inverse of negative 19 over 36 equals x. You should get 1. Did you press cosine or did you press tangent? You shouldn't get an error.
How do you type the negative? That's rounding down.
Yeah, that's right. So you should have cosine inverse. Your negative is down here. Right here. Right there. That's your negative. Don't press a minus sign. That's probably where you went wrong and got an error. You have to press the negative button. And then 19 over 36. It's 121.86. Questions on 3? All right, you guys do 4. Do number 4. I got 30.2.
I don't know. Down.
Sorry. Starting to remember? Is it the right one?
Yeah.
So you're gonna be. X squared equals square root of 586 minus 57 equals 5 minus 5. And then X equals 3.2. Hey, with the second one on Good. Does that mean Richard wants maybe?
All right, for example 4, this is how I set it up. Okay, you should get it down to where x is equal to the square root of 586 minus 570 cosine of 125. Okay, that should equal 30.21. Any questions on how to set this up? I think you guys are doing okay with simplifying. I'm more concerned with setting it up correctly. All right, so last problem I have on here is a writing problem. Okay, so it's just what methods can you use to solve a triangle? So it's everything that we've done up until this point. So I want you to talk about that in your group. What can you do to solve a triangle? Again, solving a triangle is finding all of the sides and all of the angles. All of the things that we've learned.
Can we make a list?
No, it's a writing question.
You did not give us no space.
Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's not A over C. Yeah. So, I remember someone told me like, what was it another like so good on like really long area. Rate it. Alright, perfect. Off to the left. And I got to hurry my locker and I got to hurry someone else's locker. So I can go back. Crazy. Oh, the pressure we talked about. Yeah. Yeah. So, no.
Never mind. I didn't get this. I mean, I did get it. I just didn't feel
All right, coming back together here. What are some methods that you talked about to solve a triangle? Trig ratios. What else? Pythagorean theorem. What else? SOHCAHTOA. That's trig ratios. But yeah. What else? Sadie. Okay, angles of elevation and depression. What else did what did we just go over? Law of cosines. What else?
Oh, wait,
Live signs. Okay, so
I learned that in church.
now law of sines and cosines. What's different about that than using your trig ratios? What's the difference? One is for, I heard it.
What?
One is for what type of triangle?
Right.
Right triangles. Trig ratios are for right triangles. Law of sines and law of cosines, that's for any triangle.
Trig ratios mean.
These are special right triangles.
Alright.
So,
I see them.
when solving a right triangle, you can use the Pythagorean theorem. I was going to spell it wrong. I got it. Okay. Pythagorean theorem. And trig ratios. To solve for missing sides and angles. This is an O. I was going to write an A, but it's an O. Okay, so that's with a right triangle. To solve any triangle, okay, you can use law of sines or law of cosines. Okay, and this is depending on what measures you are given. Okay, so when given one of these writing questions, I do need you to write in complete sentences. Okay, and try and look back at the question. Make sure you're answering it completely. And then use math vocabulary that we've been going over, such as Pythagorean theorem, trig ratios. I would accept SOHCAHTOA if you wrote that. Law of sines and law of cosines. Okay? Questions on this?